Beard.
FTW Podcast. FTW Podcast. FTW Podcast.
All right, welcome everybody to another edition of the Fans Talk Wrestling Podcast. FTW is a weekly WWE and TNA discussion where fans talk the wrestling world in all of its laughable glory. This is episode 243, recorded on November 20... actually, what day is today? It's December 2nd, 2014 on FTWLive.com. Tonight, we're actually not a WWE and TNA discussion. We're going to be talking about Lucha Underground. This is our Lucha Underground special. We've got about 5 episodes that we're going to try and recap and review. I don't think we're going to get to everything in depth, but we're going to talk about Lucha Underground. There's a lot of hype, a lot of people happy about what's going on, and obviously I think we were also happy about it, so we'll get into that. With us tonight is Nick. Say hello, Nick.
Lucha, 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 Lucha.
And Joe. Say hello, Joe.
Hey, man. Ole, 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 ole. Wrong show.
Starting off strong, Joe. Starting off strong.
That's right.
And for the first time ever, she is FTW's personal sexy star, I think. It's my wife.
Wife quotes forever.
That's a callback.
My name is Garvin. If you're listening live, say hi and leave your thoughts in the comments here on FTWLive.com. If you're on Twitter, you can use hashtag FTWLive. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a like. Make sure to subscribe. We release new videos throughout the week, not just from us, but also from members of the FTW community just like you. So, yeah, kind of weird right now. We don't really know how to jump into this conversation just because we've got five events that Lucha Underground has released. This is all new to us, so we're all learning everything that's going on. We're talking a little bit back and forth on Facebook and Google Plus and Twitter. Just a real brief explanation of why I have brought the wife on. This is her first time watching like a wrestling program from the beginning. Not a real major wrestling fan by any means.
No, definitely not.
Wouldn't even call her a casual wrestling fan. More like a walk in the room, stand there for 2-3 minutes, judge, and walk away wrestling fan.
I'm really good at judging.
Yeah.
But let's be completely honest here. She was the one who predicted the 1 in 21-1.
That's true.
That was Angela Lansbury. Thank you.
Yeah.
She's also the one that blew the door wide open on the fact that Kane and Undertaker are the same person.
They are. How do you not see that?
So yeah, just obviously you guys hear our perspective every week. I wanted to bring in the wife to basically give her perspective based on the type of wrestling fan that she is. But you've watched every episode pretty much in full. So yeah. Well, where do we begin? I guess general thoughts off the top of your head. What's your opinion going into this about Lucha Underground? Do you like it, Nick?
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. I haven't watched wrestling like this in like ever. I never watched it in like an episodic format where there is a detailed narrative from episode to episode. Raw can call itself the longest running episodic TV show in history, but it's not the same kind of thing. The story is vague. It's barely there. This is very, very story driven, very story oriented with real characters, not just like people turned up to 11 like Stone Cold keeps liking to say. But I've heard the term grindhouse thrown around, and that seems to fit with my experience of that genre, albeit limited. But yeah, again, it's just very fun. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It reminds me of there was a Lucha type show on MTV2 a while back that I attempted to cover, and it was just terrible. It was like Wrestling Something USA or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I forget what it was called too, Joe.
And it had a weird flavor to it, but But those storylines were just really, really weird. It's almost like you took that, made a little more sense out of it, and then just gave it like much more higher production value. Yes, USA Lucha Libre. I think Robert's got it. But yeah, like I'm amazed with Lucha Underground that their promos in between matches they don't look shoddy. They don't look like they've been taped live. They look like they've been taken out of a movie.
Yeah.
It's completely different than the in-ring product, which is one. It rubs me the wrong way to some extent because it's so different, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we should kind of dip into the overall story, but the setting is what the main guy Dario Cueto is calling his temple. So it's a warehouse. It's like very dark, very dirty looking. The ring is like this light tannish brown with like the Mayan Aztecan style drawing in the center of it. Small crowd. I want to say maybe 300, maybe 300. I wouldn't say there's more than that. It's just one level of bleachers, I think. But yeah, overall, the story is more of like this is where wrestling began. They're trying to bring the general culture of what Lucha Libre was to the U.S. audience. But that was like at least the first episode. It was very heavy on that side, just like the tradition, what this meant, and then like just how they built it up was very, I wouldn't say cheesy, but it was very non-serious. It was like almost like a Ninja Turtles from the 80s style where they were telling the story where this guy was basically getting beat up, and then another Lucha Libre saved him, and then they decided to...
I'm sorry, what saved him?
What did I say?
Lucha Libre.
You mean Luchador?
Luchador.
You beat me to calling him out on it. Yes, I appreciate it.
Oh, man. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's definitely different. It's more of a TV show, more of a story. You know, we generally complain that there's less wrestling and more sports entertainment being pushed on us, and this is kind of fitting the same vibe, but the way they're doing it is just so different, and I don't know, it just has a nice feeling about it. It has great wrestling matches too. Don't get me wrong. But it is telling a story. Like everything is consistent from one segment to the other. It seems like we're all pushing towards, one end goal.
Yeah, it definitely helps that there's not a big. It's an hour long, so you get a few matches, you get a couple of maybe minute-long segments between each. So it's definitely not an overload like you get with Raw.
Yeah.
The length was the big selling point for me because I'm not a real wrestling fan, but the first show I watched, I walked in the room, it was so cheesy. It was a storyline, and I think the storyline itself was 2 minutes long, which was great because usually when I walk in the room and Garvin's watching behind the scenes kind of thing, it drags on forever. It's ridiculous. The camera work's bad. This was straight on cheese. It was like watching a bad detective movie, and then it went straight to a match, and it was a really good match. So it kind of broke up that melodramatic corniness, and I could sit there and watch the whole thing, and by the time I was done, the show was done.
Yeah, it definitely flies through. When we look at WWE and even TNA at times, when we get to the end of the show, we're so tired, and especially WWE, the 3-hour Raw is like, we're an hour into it, an hour and a half, 2 hours into it, and we're like, all right, I'm done with this. This is not entertaining. But for me at least, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I get to the end of this and I'm like, wait, this is it? We're already in the main event. Like it just flies through, but it's just so interesting.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
So yeah, some names. I guess we can read down the roster as we know right now. Again, we've watched all of the first 5 episodes So I'm going to butcher all of these names, so apologies. But we've got Dario Cueto, who's the owner. So the general vibe that he has is he's an evil owner. He wants violence. The way they started it was, he was inviting these wrestlers, these luchadors, as you will, into his temple to compete for a chance to, whoever impressed him earned a $100,000 in a briefcase kind of thing. But evil owner, he had basically hired guns already. Those hired guns were Cortez Castro, Cisco, and Big Rick, and we know Big Rick as Ezekiel Jackson. We've also got as far as that's the major heel group. On the face side, we've got Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma. Johnny Mundo, you guys know as John Morrison. So Prince Puma and Johnny Mundo were basically fighting in that first event to basically determine who was going to get that briefcase kind of thing. Also we've got Blue Demon Jr., who's got huge history in Mexico wrestling, in Mexican wrestling. Chavo Guerrero is there, which I had low expectations, but we'll talk about that in a second. Sexy Star, who is another masked luchador. Ivelisse, who we know from her brief stint in TNA. Mil Muertes, who is with Katrina. Katrina we know as Maxine. There's also Masquerita Sagrado, El Mariachi Loco, Dragon, Phoenix, Pentagon Jr., and King Cuerno. So, overall, do we want to jump into the feuds, the major feuds that are happening right now, and set that stage?
Sure.
Let's do it.
All right, so the major feuds that we have right now, as I said before, Dario Cueto, I'm gonna hate this episode. He hired Cortez, Cisco, and Big Rick to basically take on Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma. Johnny Mundo was basically, the free agent, the star that everyone wanted kind of thing. So they're really tying into his history with WWE and how he left and sort of like where he's been and everything. Prince Puma is managed by Conan, which is nice to see Conan in that type of role. We've also got kind of like a mixed feud happening because it's kind of hard to tell where everyone is, but definitely Son of Havoc and Ivelisse versus Sexy Star. But you've also got Chavo in there on the heel side, Blue Demon Jr., and Masquerita Sagrado. And then we've also got Drago versus Phoenix versus Pentagon Jr. versus King Cuerno. So Drago, Phoenix, and Pentagon Jr. Episode 4, definitely check out that match. It was, I think, I don't remember who said it on Twitter, but they suggested it was definitely like match of the year. Like a candidate for that, and it was definitely a fantastic match. If you've, it was actually Max from Wrestling with Subtitles on Twitter, but definitely check that match out if you haven't already. And then
it's up for match of the year, but I mean, let's be honest, there haven't been that many matches this year for them.
I think the way Max was saying it and the way I feel about it as well is more of like just compared to what we've seen from WWE and TNA, like that definitely needs to be considered up there. Yeah, I mean, it was the first time we've seen these guys. Yeah, it was,
Right.
That the first time we've really gotten that style of wrestling. So, I don't know, but
yeah, I was trying to make a joke.
Sure. And Mil Muertes is kind of floating. I'm not necessarily sure who he's going after, but he seems to be going after everyone.
Beating the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. So overall, out of these feuds, what are you guys most interested in, Joe?
I'm kind of really liking the Drago, Phoenix, Pentagon Jr. and King Cuerno. Like I Phoenix really in the ring has just like mesmerized me, so I'm interested in just following that. I also like the Dario Cueto. I don't know. First one.
The owner.
The owner, yes. This is At least it's better than me trying to pronounce the
Japanese
the
names.
Japanese names. I took a year of Spanish, so I can maybe fudge my way through something. But yeah, no, that, I mean, obviously that's like the main storyline, and that one's got my interest.
Nick?
I don't think I'm really a fan of any one feud in particular, but pretty much everything Chavo's done has really interested me. And that's not something I would have said 6 months ago. When he was in TNA, he was basically just there. He tagged up with Hernandez for a little while, and he was kind of there. But now he's doing something really interesting. The first match that we saw on Lucha Underground was Chavo versus Blue Demon Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the scions of two great wrestling families in Mexico. So, right, automatically, that has my interest. And then Chavo turns heel. And he actually turns out to be a really good heel. Like, he beats the shit out of everybody with a chair, smashes Sexy Star in the face with it.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to just be this asshole to everybody. Kind of like how in TNA, the country of Japan has turned on Sonata. All of Mexico is now gunning for Chavo.
Right.
It's really interesting.
Which could really lead to some cool stuff, for sure. Diva Jill in the live chat says, one big thing I love about Lucha Underground is that they make no distinction between man, woman, and midget.
Agreed. That is the best thing about the show.
Yeah, so Sexy Star at the first event faced off against Son of Havoc, lost. And then the second event, it was like a mixed tag with Chavo as Sexy Star's partner. Then Sexy Star is coming out and calling out Chavo after he turned. It definitely, like, I don't know. I really don't know how to feel about it, because on one hand, it's awesome, just to see something different. On the other hand, the U.S. society in general is going through like this weird phase, and I'm sure that's not a proper way to say it, but, just going through this period where, domestic violence is now becoming a bigger and bigger topic. So I'm not sure how this necessarily fits in all of this. Obviously, I mean, they're wrestlers, so this is within competition, so it should be cool, but I'm fearful that they could get some negative feedback because of that.
A few years ago, I think I would have been a lot more in line with that, but with the audience that Lucha Underground is getting, like fans of indie wrestling, and I imagine you get some WWE and TNA viewers in there as well.
Yeah.
But there's recently been a boom in intergender wrestling. Like, Candice LeRae is a huge forefront in that movement.
Yeah.
And she's done a lot of stuff lately in intergender matches. Like, kicked in the face with tacks by the Young Bucks. They've made multiple shirts of that. And people are digging it. They're viewing Candice as not necessarily one of the boys, but as an equal. Like, she can hold her own with any of them. And I think this is kind of in line with that. So in today's market, I think you'll definitely get some of that. Like, oh man, should never hit a woman. He's a scumbag, which I guess is kind of the vibe that Chavo and the like are going for. But I think you'll get less of the boycott aspect than you would maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference between, going after a valet versus, competing in a match with a female.
I gotta pipe in and say that I'm a big Star Trek fan, and one thing I noticed in Star Trek was that whenever there's a big fight scene, they don't discriminate either. Men, women, aliens, everyone's fighting together, and I have never heard anyone say, gosh, that Captain Kirk, he punched that woman in the face. No one cared. And I think that same attitude will apply to wrestling. It's a fair arena. They're trained professionals. It's not like they're people on the street. These are people who have been, they're athletes. They've been training for this. Their job is to fight.
Mm. And I think it also helps that Sexy Star is now the one going after Chavo. Like, Chavo struck that first blow. Right. But she's not running to somebody else to fight her battles for her. She's gunning for Chavo. Right. She wants to kick his ass.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a good way to do it. I mean, it makes the story realistic. It makes the story feel, proper. I mean, overall, that's an excellent story. But at the same time, it's just the shock value of Chavo smashing her over the face with a chair in like the second, what was the second episode? Yeah, I think it was the second episode. It's just, that's how you end the episode. It was just like, oh, the wow factor.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. My wife, what do you think about, like, what's your favorite feud happening right now?
Well, the first feud I saw was when I walked in and saw Sexy Star and Chavo, and I was really impressed by that. I love that they had a woman, powerful, strong. I think she even beat him. I don't really recall. But I was so impressed by that, and I love that idea that it's an intergender feud. But I also love watching Drago and Phoenix in the ring. I love the way Phoenix moves, and I love Drago's character. His persona in the ring is just so cool. He puts so much effort into it, and there's never really a slow moment in those matches. Those bigger lumbering guys, my attention wanders. But when you've got people who are light on their feet and very acrobatic, that really captures my attention.
Yeah. Overall, I'm just thinking back to, when we were watching together. It did seem like you were less interested in, what Big Rick was doing. It was 2 weeks in a row. It was Big Rick versus Puma and Big Rick versus Mundo. And even though that was like the main story, it really didn't seem to catch your interest. But, seeing Phoenix running around flipping, that is cool. And that is something that I can totally relate to. I'm the same way. Just the style, the Lucha Libre style, the lightweight divisions, cruiserweight stuff that we haven't seen for so long. It's nice having that here. The one thing that surprised me though, we are aware that this is AAA. So there was a little bit of hype at the very beginning, AAA and, basically a Mexican wrestling company was going to bring their style and their wrestling to the States. That was a pretty big deal, and we were all pretty excited. But what I find really interesting is we've got Drago, Phoenix, Pentagon Jr. They're not necessarily pure Lucha Libre. They bring a lot of the Japanese style, and Drago's whole scheme is very, very Japanese-esque. So it's kind of cool to see that brought in as well.
But I just want to mention that I really want a replica of one of Drago's mask, because that is awesome.
Complete with the tongue.
The tongue, man.
Yeah.
I want to know what happens to the tongue during the match. Kayfabe. We'll never know.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. Overall, as far as story wise, I'm totally with you, Nick. I'm into what's happening with Chavo. Like you said, wife, I am into the whole idea of Sexy Star, what she's doing. Like, I hated the character Sexy Star. So let me take a step back. I hated the character of Sexy Star because of how they built her. Like the whole background, that felt real cheesy. I think it was like, and apologies if this is offensive, but, as far as like she was like a domestic violence, victim basically, and this was like her way, she was wearing the mask, this was her way to kind of beat that. And that seemed kind of like, I don't know, a little bit too much, but since they've moved away from that and she's just like, just so awesome, like it doesn't even matter to me. Like I'm happy to see her in the ring every week now. Okay. Well, so we talked about feeds, we talked about the overall roster. Let's talk about matches. Obviously, the Lucha Libre style, the Mexican wrestling style is important for what they're doing. What's been your favorite match so far? Nick?
I think my favorite match thus far would have to be the triple threat match between Drago, Phoenix, and Pentagon Jr. That was definitely very fast-paced, a lot of action going in and out of the ring. And I always pop when somebody does something like the hopping on the ropes multiple times for a springboard move. And just the way he was crossing his legs back and forth as he was jumping, I have no idea how you don't trip and bust your head open doing that.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And just as an aside, his look, his style, even his mask, it makes me wonder if he ever worked at all with Kalisto or Samurai del Sol when he was working on the indies. Because those two have a very similar style, a very similar look.
Joe, you got a favorite match? Okay. Let's pretend I didn't cue him. Steph, you have a favorite match?
No, I just enjoy watching the wrestlers in the moment for what they are.
Okay. I don't necessarily have a favorite match either. I'm really digging all of it. I think least favorite match, I would have to go with Mascarita Sangrada versus El Mariachi Loco. I thought that was very, I don't know. That seemed to be the only filler match that we've gotten so far.
And I didn't mind that one. I actually liked El Mariachi Loco, being a little guy, being able to get in there and mix it up.
Actually, Mascarita Sangrada is the little guy. El Mariachi Loco was the guy that Cueto pulled from the restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, that's how they introduced him.
Yeah, but too many names that are new.
But
I was okay with that match. I want to say that was Mascarita Sagrada's debut match.
Correct. Yeah, that was episode 3.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that was a good way to introduce him to the television audience. So I didn't mind that too much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at our results, and we'll have all of these results on the full show notes. But it seemed like episode 1, episode 2, realistically, episode 4 and 5, it was all story-based matches. Like, everything was telling like this story. But on episode 3, we had Mascarita Sangrada basically go over what I think is going to be a jobber. I don't think we'll see El Mariachi Loco very often. Mil Muertes went over Ricky Mandel, and I doubt we're going to see Ricky Mandel very often either. Just because he wasn't in episode 4 and 5, but it seems like everyone else that was in episode 1 carried over to 2. Everyone who was in 2 carried over to 3, 4, and 5, but those two guys. So it just seemed like a filler episode that almost kind of destroyed the momentum for me, because it was against a guy that we ended up not seeing again, and it did feel like filler for me.
I can see that. Personally, I think they threaded together the narrative well enough. Like, Chavo was dealing with the fallout from being Mexico's most hated man, and Drago, Phoenix, and Pentagon Jr. turned out to be mainstays for what's going on. So right. I think just for me, I think they did a decent enough job of keeping things moving along and introducing new characters to add on to it.
All right, Joe, you got a favorite match?
I mean, there have been some good matches. I don't know. Johnny Mundo and Big Rick was fun for me to watch.
Yeah.
Only because, and I hate to pick the two guys who are in the WWE, but it's been a long time since I've really seen Big Rick, and I was a fan of him when he was Ezekiel Jackson.
Sure.
So it was really I like his style a lot, and Johnny Mundo, I like his athleticism. So it was cool to see those guys working, not just again, but together. Right.
Yeah, and I'm with you as far as being able to easily attach yourself to people you know. I have that issue as well. Like there was it was a free pay-per-view maybe two months ago, and there was a lot of hype. It was free. Like the first day was free on YouTube. Nick, do you remember what event this was? I remember I got like 3 matches in, and by the 3rd match I was just done because I didn't know any of these guys. Like there was no real story being told. It was just match, like very indie style, live event where you've got just match after match after match, nothing in between to really sell what it was. So.
Oh, it was that FWE show.
Yeah, that's what it was. FWE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it would have been, it was probably good. I know a lot of people were raving about it, but I just had the hardest time getting into it because there was no story that I could easily get into, right away. Like it was a fantastic match to open, and then the second match, it was okay. And then there was this, 3rd match with like something orange where you drink orange juice, and it was just awkward on TV.
Yeah.
And I lost that.
Like indie shows like that, unless you're going to all of them, it's really hard to follow any narrative that they might have.
Right.
And good ones like FWE do at least try to maintain a narrative to keep people hooked, but again, if you're not watching it regularly, it's hard to stay hooked into that.
Yeah, I tried to do the same thing with Prime when that was still around, because
Yeah.
at least I could get that, even though it was delayed, because I was watching online. Yeah, if you don't follow what's going on, you're lost if you're not catching every episode.
Yeah, but this is different. This isn't like that. It's, while it is a lot of new names that I don't know, there's a lot of characters with backgrounds that I'm not aware of, like Blue Demon Jr. I'm sure I've heard the name before, but it means nothing to me. But going up against a guy like Chavo, that does mean a lot to me. Son of Havoc means nothing to me, but the fact that he has a nice beard does help. And then Johnny Mundo, I've always been kind of mixed on him overall, but I think he's doing really well here. And this is actually a nice topic to talk about. We posted this on the Facebook page a little bit earlier this week. Just about the idea that Johnny Mundo, John Morrison, is basically the top guy or one of the top guys in Lucha Underground. So, knowing that, are you okay with him in that position, in that role here? And do you think that WWE missed the boat by not giving him that same opportunity?
I like him here. That being said, I don't think WWE missed the boat with him, because a lot of the work he did in WWE, he was putting on a show, but it didn't look like a wrestling match. It just looked like his time to go out and do flips and do parkour. It didn't translate as well. With more of a lucha show like this, it translates a little better. And maybe he's learned to give a little bit more of that fight feel, that he can do those moves and make it a fight. But in the WWE, it never came across that way. It looked like he went out, okay, my floor routine is backflip, moonsault, enziguri. It never came across as a fight like every match should come across. And so I don't think they necessarily missed the boat on him. I think he definitely needed more refinement. And maybe he's got that by working the Indies and now working at Lucha Underground.
Yeah, I'm very much in line with Joe there. He definitely shows that he can handle that top spot now. When he went out of the WWE, though, he definitely needed some work. He's done a lot of growing since he's left the WWE. Not just with the Indies, but all the parkour stuff he's done, the acting, the stunt fighting. Like, I can't remember if it was episode 3 or 4, but when he was storming Cueto's office and he demolished Cisco and Castro, that was definitely a fist fight. That was a street fight kind of feel.
Right.
So he's definitely come a long way in making it look like a fight or a wrestling match, not just all that flamey shit. So, yeah, I don't think the WWE misused him or failed to realize his potential. I guess they didn't fail him. He definitely had a lot of growing to do. But now, I think he could definitely parlay this top spot in Lucha Underground into a main event role in WWE.
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, and this is being talked about in live chat, and this is my feelings as well, but Deuce is saying it's easier to get over and look better when you have guys around you who compliment you. And I think that's exactly it. Like, John Morrison's style in WWE, while it was pretty and while it looked cool, it didn't really mesh well with who he was facing. Like, it didn't mesh well with guys that were bigger, and the slower pace that is in WWE. But going here, even in the Indies, but going here specifically in Lucha Underground, there's a lot of guys who are able to, match speed and really, they're similar sizes. There aren't many people, like, in Lucha Underground, there's one big guy. That's Big Rick. Everyone else is, right around his size outside of like Mil Muertes and Big Cuerno, I guess, is tall, but he's not built. But
Blue
overall,
Demon's pretty meaty.
Blue Demon, yeah, he's pretty meaty as well. But still.
So what's the over under on when Molina signs with Lucha?
I That's a good question. Not only Melina, who was the girl that played the vampire girlfriend for Kevin? Kevin
Oh,
Thorne.
Shelly Martinez.
Shelly Martinez. I was expecting Shelly Martinez to be involved in this in some capacity as well. So
The vampire girlfriend for Kevin?
Kevin Thorne. Remember him?
Oh, Kevin Thorne. I'm thinking our Kevin.
Yeah.
Was Kevin the really emo wrestler?
He was like a vampire, but
Like a
not,
teenager?
No, you're thinking
He's like
of,
if Matt Hardy had fangs.
you're thinking of my
Dick Rowe.
role play character in Wrestling Midwest, Kevin.
Yes.
Anyways, so
Nerds.
Wife quotes.
yeah. So overall, I think it's definitely an issue with who he's going up against. Mundo versus Big Rick, I don't think had the same feel, the same vibe as Mundo versus Puma. I think that match was fantastic. As long as they can keep him going with the Lucha Libre style, not with a big guy, not with a brawler, but just that Lucha Libre style, I think that fits him a lot better. And there's a lot more opportunities here, obviously, in Lucha Underground than there is elsewhere. So I don't think WWE missed the boat. It's just that WWE doesn't book that way. They don't have that style of wrestling all the time. They don't have the guys that can really do well. I mean, look at Sin Cara as a perfect example. Like, that's a guy who should have done well, but he couldn't adjust to the slowness and to the general pace of a WWE match.
You mean Sin Cara Azul?
Mystico.
I'm
The first
one.
one.
the original one that came in, not Hunico.
Mystico.
Yeah.
Just one last thing. I want to say that Morrison could actually do a lot better in today's WWE. I think they have changed the booking enough that he can make it work. With guys like Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler, they're up there at the top now. And Cena sped up his game. He's definitely diversified.
There's definitely more opportunity. I'll give you that. There's definitely more opportunity for that kind of guy to come in and do well.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I think Nick's having a stroke.
But yeah, I don't think.
I smell purple.
I don't.
Win of the week, right there.
I don't think that's completely accurate though. But yeah. Okay. So yeah. I mean, so we've had five events. Each one has felt like it flew by for me. As soon as they announced like this is the main event, it's shocking to me. I'm like, whoa, like I just got into this and all of a sudden it's over. Do you guys think that it's the matches that make Lucha Underground intriguing for you, or is it the way that they're telling their stories? Like what is it for them that does it for you?
For me, it's a complete change from the style that we're used to. I mean, you've got WWE with their flavor, and they're the standard. We can't deny that. TNA is trying to still battle that style. Lucha Underground comes into like, we're gonna fucking do lucha. It's an entirely different style, and that's what's interesting to me. It's a completely different product. That's what's intriguing me. It's a big change. It's not like, well, here's TNA, they're kind of like WWE, and it's an alternative to WWE. No, this is entirely different.
Yeah.
You can't even, outside of saying they're both wrestling companies, that's about it.
So, Steph, you don't watch wrestling. You are watching this. Why? What is it that, like, what are they doing differently that makes it watchable for you?
Well, there's something about professional wrestling that I think that you and Joe and everyone really loves, but that I don't, is that it seems to take itself so seriously, and to me it's always been corny. So when I walked in and saw that first episode of this one, it was almost deliberately corny. It was like it knew very well that it was going to be a soap opera that involved people in tight pants fighting, and it was okay with that. And you can't really be funny or effective if you're going to go that route unless you're good. So the fact that the matches themselves are so good and the wrestlers are so skilled, it's a good counterpoint to how overly dramatic and almost stylized the filming of the rest of it is. I think it works really well together. I don't think you could have it be all serious or all cheesy. I think you need both for it to work well.
What say you, Nick?
It's predominantly the match style. It's just so much faster paced that it keeps you hooked, so you don't want to miss anything. And like has been mentioned, the wrestlers themselves are so good at what they do. You don't have like a guy like a Mojo Rawley or a Bull Dempsey that is clearly doing this because, oh, I can't do football anymore, so I'll do this. These guys live for wrestling. So it's obvious the passion just bleeds through what they do. And there's also other aspects of it, like the storytelling, both in-ring and out of it. The story itself, like, it's a tradition that's gone back millennia, back to the ancient Aztecs. Prince Puma's direct descendant of the most feared renegade Aztec tribe. It's not that great a story, but they stick to it with such conviction, and the matches are so great that you can kind of put up with it. So there's all of that, just the storytelling aspect to it that really intrigues me.
From the live chat, we've got, it's a real wrestling show, the male soap opera in all of its glory. We've also got Lucha Underground, got everything to make you a wrestling fan from the very beginning. Also, it's the total production value that sets it apart from everything else. The only thing that they can't do a second take with, or that show, or I don't know, this is a run-on sentence. I think they can't do a second take with it. Whatever. Anyways, for me, I don't know, man. It's weird. It is the general story that they're telling. I think because it's so different, because it's so opposite of what WWE is doing. WWE is trying to toe the line of being serious and also being a kid-friendly show, while TNA is mostly all serious, for the most part. Just thinking back to how the stories have been told over the last 6 months or so, they're not really targeting a kids audience. They're targeting, 18s to 40s. So this though feels like it's more in tune as a whole. Like everything is working for the same goal. You don't have one feud that has nothing to do with something else. And again, this is all early stages too. Like we don't have a champion yet. We don't have any type of motivation as far as title or label outside of like that initial $100,000 briefcase that they were going to give out. Outside of that, like nothing else is really normal for us. There's no championships for sure. I mean, that's like the main one. But for the most part, everything seems to gel with one another. You've got some strays, like when Masquerita's first came in, he faced off against El Mariachi Loco. So that was outside. That was kind of filler, but it introduced the character. And the following week, or maybe it was at the end of that show, I can't recall, Chavo attacked him. So then that he got brought into the whole Chavo storyline, and it just seems like everything is gelling. Everything is working together. One consistent overall storyline, and I like that. I like having that because you're getting different viewpoints from every single character, but they're all telling the same story.
I like that it's, I mean, we're getting that early on. Time will tell, though. It's like they've had time leading up to their TV debut to come up with this intricate storyline where they're bringing everything together. A few months down the road, once they've got all that initial work done, where they had, hell, they could have had years to come up with ideas to do that, to do the storyline. Once that time is gone, how they progress, I think, is going to be a big storyteller.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see where they go next with this. If they continue that general vibe, or if they break out and do the normal wrestling thing. So
it'll also be interesting to see if they continue to emulate the kind of more traditional TV aspect they're taking on and do actual seasons. Like they take a mid-season break, or they they go off air for a couple months and then start another season.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I'd be really disappointed
Yeah.
if they do. But that's how I feel with every series. Every series we watch, as soon as it's over, and they usually end on like that beautiful that beautiful point when you're like, I want to see more, and they have to wait months. Ugh. I really hope that's not the case, but I think it'd be fine if they did. But I don't know. Well, overall, I think that's the general vibe. We're all pretty positive about Lucha Underground. Moving forward, though, obviously TNA is going to be coming back in January. You've got the whatever GFW is going to be doing in January as well. If they're just going to be NGPW in the US or where, how that's going to evolve, we don't know. So with all of that in mind, and some other companies coming out of the woodwork, like NJPW outside of GFW is doing their own show in the US starting in January as well. So you've got all of this wrestling content going to be available to you. Lucha Underground, does it fit in your schedule moving forward?
I'd like it to. The problem is that I have a hard time getting it. So I will fit it in where I can.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to set aside time to watch it. As it airs for the next few weeks, probably, as TNA's off air. The problem is it does air the same night as TNA. Or maybe TNA will change dates with the new network, but for the foreseeable future, it's the same night. So it'll be interesting to see how I choose what to watch on the night of and what I save for the next day. But
sure,
yeah, I'm definitely going to set aside time for it.
Steph, is this going to make you a weekly wrestling fan? Are you going to be continuing to watch this?
I don't know that it's going to turn me into the kind of fan that you guys are, but I think it will turn me into a little bit more than a typical wife quotes Judgy Judgerson kind of person who just wanders in and makes fun of the wrestlers and wanders out again. I'll probably watch it a little more regularity.
But you will watch the next episode?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Well, it's good enough for me. I know I'll be watching. Seems like the live chat will be watching. Obviously, it's not totally perfect. There were some faults that I think we all found in it. But overall, the general vibe is Lucha Underground is good. If you guys want us to continue to talk about Lucha Underground as we move forward, especially once the new year starts, let us know. Definitely want to hear what you guys think. If you're also watching and you want to hear this on the weekly, our weekly episodic podcast, let us know. So, let's shift gears real quick, before we close out the entire episode. Obviously, this is going to be WWE related. You guys all are aware that CM Punk released a new podcast, with Colt Cabana, basically going after WWE. Well, it wasn't necessarily a shoot on WWE. At least that's what he said. That wasn't his motivation, but he was very, very critical of how they do things. So let's just spend a couple minutes to talk about it. Overall, Nick, what do you think about what Punk had to say?
It was very enlightening, the way they handle things like health issues, and I guess it's kind of nice to get confirmation about the whole independent contractors deal. Just the fact that they either couldn't or wouldn't diagnose and treat what became a full-blown MRSA infection by the time Punk left. It just blows my mind. The fact that can go on back there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, Nick. That's an amazing thing to just... I mean, that seems to be like the biggest point out of the whole thing, was that there's a major health issue, and they didn't do a damn thing about it. The other thing, when questions were raised about, hey, pay-per-views are changing, you're doing this network thing, how's that changing our buy rate, or our payouts for pay-per-views? Never got a straight answer. Never got an actual answer other than, from Vince.
Yeah.
If
just for those out there, the MRSA infection, which by the way is completely life-threatening, was on top of other injuries and surgeries that Punk had, which he had no time to recover from.
One of my favorite things was where he was talking about how he was out for an injury and took the time to also get eye surgery, and when they threw him back like 3 or 4 weeks early before he wasn't even cleared, they threw him back in the ring, and that's when the Nexus beat him up.
Yeah.
And he's complaining about, he's like, and some fucker is grating my eyes, and I just had surgery. Yeah, that was Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
So Daniel Bryan was raking his eyes.
That fucker.
That fucker.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of torn with everything about it. Generally speaking, it's a lot of he said, she said. I'm sure some more on the other side will be told. I don't think WWE will really tell their side for a while at least, and we got that we got that vibe from Vince McMahon's podcast that he did with Stone Cold this week as well. So I don't know. It's odd. We've witnessed guys who are obviously injured competing. We've are aware that that seems to be the general thought process for wrestlers is you need to keep your spot, so you wrestle through injuries, regardless of how critical they are, unless like you're totally incapacitated. But overall, like there's tons of guys that work through injuries that we're aware of. This brought up a new theory behind like why they do it. Is it because they'll lose their spot like we've always been told, or is it because they're not getting the right information from the doctors at WWE? And that's what it seems like we got with Punk. Punk was saying, he was told like totally opposite or totally like different things of what was occurring, like the concussion tests that he was going through, and WWE doctors were basically, telling him he was fine, and he obviously wasn't. So, it does bring to light like another facet of the business that I don't think WWE will survive if they don't act on it soon.
Oh, and can we just highlight the fact that the dude got fired on his wedding day?
Yep. That's pretty important. Vince's reasoning for that and his apology, I feel like it was sincere. Vince was on the Stone Cold podcast after Raw. Was it after Raw?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a network exclusive. I think it'll be on the Stone Cold's podcast feed later this week. But overall, he apologized, and it was more of like a bureaucracy thing, like, the HR department doesn't know what these guys are doing. These guys don't know what they're doing. And, and it went through a different channel. It didn't come from Vince. It didn't come from Triple H. It went through, however it went through. I don't know, lawyers or HR or whatever.
I do want to point out, Triple H is VP of talent.
Yeah.
So,
and
just throwing that out there.
So jumping into Vince's podcast, some things that were talked about, and Stone Cold was very adamant that Jim Ross deserved a spot and was needed for this business, for WWE specifically, to run, almost implying that there wouldn't have been a Punk blow up like there was, Punk walking out, if Jim Ross was there, if someone was constantly, talking to Punk, like Jim Ross talked to Stone Cold, as the talent relations guy. So, and Vince seemed to be not necessarily open to the idea of JR coming back, but definitely open to the idea that, we do need to be talking to our talent more, almost throwing Triple H under the bus, which was kind of odd. So,
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's it. I think overall I enjoyed both podcasts. I enjoyed the CM Punk one, but obviously I have my issues with how CM Punk left. I think this does open up, the possibility that I was wrong. For pretty much the entire time I've been calling him a quitter. I've been disappointed with people chanting CM Punk, but now now I'm, more open to the idea of, well, maybe it wasn't all CM Punk. Maybe it was a lot of the politics and the bullshit that got to him that forced him to leave. And, maybe this was a good decision. Plus, he didn't quit. He got fired. He took time off and they fired him. So,
yeah, I mean, there was, I was pretty hard on Punk, or at least to the extent where, I'm like, he fucking quit. Let's fucking move on.
Yeah.
Whatever. I got really tired of the CM Punk, we want CM Punk back stuff. I'm glad that Punk stayed quiet about everything and then just came out and said, okay, here's why.
Yeah.
Like, now that it's died down a little bit, let me explain why. I really appreciate that explanation.
right.
Granted, it's only one side, and I haven't heard the Stone Cold podcast yet. I just haven't had the time. But, yeah, I appreciate everything he said. And they're going to do a follow-up podcast with Q&A.
Yeah.
People can write in questions. I know our Kevin actually was asking me for that email address because he had just listened to the podcast, and he wants to write in. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is something we want to discuss on another episode. But, yeah, I mean, it's sparking everybody. And I don't know. I'm just very glad that we got an explanation, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm glad it just wasn't I don't like the way they were booking me, so fuck them.
Yeah, I didn't get the main event Mania, so fuck you guys, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big. I mean, granted, the main event of Mania is a big thing to ask.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No one should be able to ask for that.
Sure.
Outside of somebody like Taker, or some of these just hugely legacy guys. But Punk actually came. It was nice to see him go. Okay, you want Brock Lesnar to go over at this pay-per-view over me? Who's going to be on there? Who's going to be there on Monday?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Me. Where's he at? What do you mean he's not coming back for 3 more months?
And when
Why
Punk
does that
said that, when Punk said that, I mean, that echoed a lot of the feedback that we had for just the entire last 6 to 8 months of Punk's existence in WWE. It seemed to be awfully booked. Just odd on every single note, like him losing to Rock, him losing to Cena as many times as he did, him losing to Lesnar, him losing the Undertaker. I mean, you can go on and on about how things were poorly done, and we see that as fans. For Punk to also see that, and for him not to understand why the company doesn't see that, I think that was really telling. So, I don't know. But we're going to go in a little bit more detail, most likely next week. It all depends on what this next part is. If this next part is, worthwhile. I know I'll be listening regardless. But we'll be going a little bit more in depth, and hopefully there is a better response from WWE, like a doctor getting fired, if this is all true, or some kind of proof that CM Punk is wrong and that here are his test results and all that sort of thing. Like, that's what I want to see happen. I want to see movement from that direction as far as, fixing the problems. That's a huge, huge major issue that needs to be resolved soon, if it is in fact an issue. So, but again, we'll talk about it more next week. Let's go ahead and jump into win fail.
Women wrestlers aren't getting paid? Why do you do a job?
Here is your win
You do any job,
and fail
is to fucking get paid!
of the week. Joe, what is your win of the week?
My win of the week. I really like the Raw GM, the anonymous Raw GM. Still, as much as everybody hates it, I love the fact that everybody hates it, and I love it. And having your wife on the podcast, it's nice to have a female voice on this show again. And I'm not kissing up for anything with Christmas coming up.
Joe's getting dirty pictures for Christmas.
Oh.
Giggity, giggity.
Share those with me, Joe. Nick, your win of the week.
I really want it to be something Lucha related, but AJ actually got AJ Lee chance. That's fantastic. From Tulsa, Oklahoma, no less. I hope this means we can finally move on from the CM Punk chance during her match.
My wife wins of the week.
Win of the week for sure was Sexy Star shaking that chair to the face like a boss.
Oh man, that was pretty good. We got some wins from the live chat. We've got fans actually chanting AJ Lee instead of CM Punk during the last part of our match. This week's podcasts in general, not just us. I'm assuming blue means us, but I'm sure he also means the Colt Cabana and the Stone Cold podcast. Wins also ROH, Matt Sydal versus Adam Cole, CM Punk's interview, Dean destroying Wyatt with a chair, Lucha Underground, Colt Cabana getting the big scoop, and that's it from the live chat. For me, it's just an opportunity. I'm happy that we had the opportunity to do a show like this, to look at a company like Lucha Underground, give them an opportunity to watch multiple episodes to really get a vibe for what they're doing and talk about it. And, that was really pushed by you guys. We posted that poll if we should open this up to other companies while TNA was taking their break. Lucha Underground was by far above all as far as the votes go. So really thankful that you guys pushed that, because I think it worked out. But let's go into fails. Joe, your fail of the week.
My fail of the week was from Raw. Once Big Show got in the ring during the main event, and he went for a headbutt, and he was probably about 2 feet away from his intended target when he did it. Like, he reached over, and he did it, but his hand was still further out. He's guided the hand. He's got the hand there to kind of block the headbutt for, and to shove the guy to make the impact bigger. The hand wasn't, his head never touched his hand. It's like 2 feet away. So he just kind of gestured in the direction, and the guy went flying. Bad show. Bad show.
Nick?
I guess the fact that the idea was even entertained that JBL might be the next Raw GM.
The fact that he got a JBL chant was awesome, though. I like JBL, I'm sorry.
It's okay, we can still be friends.
We were friends?
Well, I'll be over here sulking in the corner now.
That's okay, Nick. You'll still get a present.
Wife, your fail.
My fail of the week is you, honey. We were trying to make it the entire show without Garvin saying my name, but he did slip and he said my real name, so.
At least 3 times.
Boo to you, good sir.
Yeah.
Boo.
I'm not good.
Garvin married Mr. Hero.
From the live chat, we've got WWE having no viable tag teams but Usos and the Dust Brothers. Raw, 15 minutes of talking. There was only 15 minutes on Raw of talking. I'd imagine it was more than that. Fail, New Day not winning the tag team turmoil match.
I know, right?
I actually did not watch anything except for Lucha Underground this week, so I don't have a fail for WWE. Just because I didn't watch. But I do have a fail, and I'm kind of torn on how I want to present this. It's basically a combination of fails. The first fail is that I still cannot download the CM Punk interview with Colt Cabana. Still can't. This morning, I almost got 15 minutes, even though I had already listened. I wanted to download it from him, but I just can't. I can't access it. And I heard that he was going to release it on YouTube. I never saw it. I had to get it from someone else.
I
had
else's
YouTube.
Nick was able to acquire it in MP3 format and pass it on to me, which is how I heard it, and I passed it on to Kevin.
Yeah, again, everyone in the live chat saying go to YouTube. Yeah, I've watched it on YouTube. It wasn't his channel that released it, and I would have loved to give him the ad revenue for watching it. Yeah, so I don't know.
Full disclosure, I downloaded it in iTunes, not off some shitty YouTube channel trying to get hits.
Yeah,
you got it from the actual feed before the feed just blew up with everybody grabbing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's insane how those things have been swamped. Like Punk's Pro Wrestling Tees account, you can't go to the link and get anything.
Yeah, so I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to get it. I'm disappointed that Colt Cabana would not expect something like this and put this episode on his YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel, or moving it to SoundCloud or some other host. The host that he has obviously cannot handle this, and it's been a week now. I think it
He
was,
knew. Okay, he knew he was going to do this show. Why he didn't contact like Podcast One or something and work something.
I mean, even a temporary host, put it on Amazon's cloud or something. I mean, there's so
That'll
many,
get pricey really quick.
but there's so many cheap alternatives than not having it available and having other people steal it basically from you. So I don't know, but so
I'll download when the feed eventually comes up. I will download it so he gets that hit.
right. Me too.
For fuck's sake.
Yeah. But then also fail to all of the wrestling news sites and the wrestling news sources out there that are basically promoting the illegal copies of those on YouTube or wherever. So I think that's a shame too. That here is a legit podcast like us as a podcast not being able to access it from the podcast feed. Yeah, it sucks. But for no one pointing people to Colt Cabana's website anymore, they're just pointing people to these illegal YouTube versions is a shame. But it is what it is, I guess. Final thoughts, Joe. Your final thoughts? Anything you got?
CM Punk screwed CM Punk. No. How great would it be if Vince said that? That'd be great. I think one of the funniest things is something that was brought up to me today, which I've only seen screenshots of, like leading up to Raw, and then screenshots from the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast. Something you brought up to me, Garvin. I laughed my ass off when you told me that they're using lavalier mics, the lapel mics.
Yeah. But
they've got mics in front of them that aren't even being used, unlike laptops for some god awful reason with the Stone Cold logo on the back.
Yeah.
Stone Cold looks so serious, like he's fucking Chris Hansen going to bust some pedos. It just
yeah, it's
Nobody
weird.
accused us of being technologically savvy.
Yeah, it's weird to see like that kind of setup when it's unnecessary. But we've seen that for years. Like on the late night shows, Conan, Jay Leno, they've got that mic that sits on the desk that does nothing. It's just sitting there. It's not catching any audio. They're not using that audio. They're using the lapel in the mics or whatever,
Sometimes they kick the microphone off the desk.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just weird. Any final thoughts from you, Nick?
How much you want to bet that somebody backstage told them that that's how they need to do it in order for it to work? Guess it's a rib. But yeah, just in line with your fail, Garvin.
I could just hear Stone Cold. Well, goddamn, why are we doing it this way then?
Yeah.
I mean, why don't do this in my truck when I'm recording my podcast? I mean, I'm a global icon and a national treasure, damn it.
I've been doing it wrong this whole time, son of a bitch.
Suck my dick.
He has been doing it wrong, actually.
But yeah, just in line with your fail, Garvin. Yeah, if you haven't heard the Punk podcast yet, please wait for the actual legitimate download from Colt Cabana. He's an indie guy. He's a DIY guy. I realize I'm parroting some of his shtick, but it's true. Don't go to the websites with the agendas on their mind and dollar signs in their eyes trying to get hits or clicks off of this. Support the independent artist that's doing this to really provide a service for you guys so you know what's going on. That's why we took the stance we did, just hosting Colt Cabana's website, pointing you at the official source, not PW Insider's link on the subject.
Right.
It's just respecting Punk's wishes. He did it through his friend and no one else. That's how he wanted it done. So just be decent human beings and support the right people.
My final thought is that I think if Lucha Underground continues to be popular and pick up fans, that you're going to have a lot more women fans and maybe even guests on the show. I know I've heard Garvin complain a lot that he doesn't have too many women he can talk to about wrestling. He certainly can't talk about wrestling to me because I'm very judgy about it. But I think with good programming like this and equal programming that you're going to see a lot more female fans and you'll have a much more diverse audience. It's nice.
Wow. Eloquent.
Yes.
Word.
My final thought is I've got a pet peeve with I've started downloading podcasts. I got out of it for a while. I wasn't listening to other wrestling podcasts or other podcasts in general, but over the last couple of weeks, I've been listening to Jericho and Stone Cold, and I haven't listened to JR's yet because I've been waiting for a new one. I didn't want to listen to Survivor Series recap from him, so. But yeah, overall, I've got a pet peeve with these guys that they're not editing. They're not doing any kind of noise removal. You can hear Stone Cold breathing the entire time. And that bothers me. And I really hope that our audio is good and not comparable to them. I think we try to go over and above what most podcasts do. So if you guys have similar pet peeves with things that we do on the show, please let me know. Please let us know. So we can resolve that, because I don't want those little annoyances on the audio. Like, that's all I was hearing was Stone Cold breathing the entire time. Like, I'm sure the Bray Wyatt interview that he did was wonderful, but I keyed into him breathing.
And
so annoying.
You think that's bad? I mean, JR, for one, if he's got an hour and a half podcast, you need to skip to about 45 minutes in to get past all the ads and the bullshit about, oh, I had my day and I took my Mucinex and did my put on my diapers. I mean, just like okay, he's never said that, but it's that kind of thing where, like, if you're touting an interview, you know, I'm interviewing, you know, Jim Cornette. Okay, 45 minutes in of this hour and a half podcast, you get 10, 15 minutes in, and then you're done. Like, then you're back to that same bullshit of advertising and talking about your rectum. I don't want to hear about it. I'm here for the interview, like the last Stone Cold podcast. It said, and it's usually Stone Cold will give you some bullshit that's entertaining because it's funny to hear. To me, it's funny to hear him ramble on.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be the second part of the Bray Wyatt podcast. I skipped ahead bit by bit just to get past some of the early bullshit. I want to get to the interview. And usually with him skipping about 15 minutes out of an hour and a half, 2 hour podcast. So you know you're getting content. But I'm skipping. I got to the last, 25 minutes of this hour and a half podcast, and he's still not talking to Bray Wyatt. So I deleted it. You know, outside of that, JR has a lot of problems with the mic, and, you know, well, somebody's talking. He's just, and you're like,
mute.
Are you eating a sandwich? What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
If you aren't on the mic, just mute. It's so easy.
Yeah,
don't fucking eat it.
And don't pull a Stone Cold and forget that, you know, damn it, we did 3 shows in the last hour and a half, and I looked down and we found out it's on pause. Seriously, stop telling us that and just do the show like you don't have to tell us that it was gold. Well, maybe you should go back to taking your penis pills so that maybe you'll be awake enough to pay attention to the pause button. I don't know.
Sounds like somebody needs more On It products.
Yeah, no kidding. But Jericho's usually pretty solid, and, you know, right before that, when you get that Friday show, he's got that cowbell out.
I hate Jericho's podcast.
I actually find it entertaining.
I don't.
I'm kind of in the middle there.
I like the interviews. I don't want to hear anything else from Jericho. Like, it's just too. Let's move on. I don't want to bitch about other podcasts.
The segment with his literary experts is fucking adorable. I will say that.
I just know there was one podcast. There was one episode from Jericho that should have been phenomenal, and that was his interview with Paul Heyman and Edge, and the content was wonderful. They don't edit, they don't level anything. Like, you had people like that were so quiet. Like, I think this was during my this was right before my trip to New York City with Lee, and I had it in the car, and we had to turn it up when Paul Heyman was talking. And as soon as Edge started talking, we had to turn it down real quick because it was just blaring. I don't know.
Yeah, but Jericho did an interview with Zack Ryder and one of the medical guys. Maybe the one that Punk has an issue with. I don't know.
Probably.
No. It wasn't one of the medical guys. It was it Justin Roberts?
Justin Roberts was on one with The Miz. I remember that.
Then maybe it was the medical guy. one of the medical guys.
Was it Ziggler?
Ziggler and one of the medical guys.
Yeah.
But they were telling stories even about Zack Ryder, and it was interesting to hear that side. They're like, yeah, we travel together, me and this medical guy, and we also occasionally travel with Ryder, and they, they've got all these nicknames and they explain it, and like that's really cool for me to see, and I get a lot more of that with Jericho than I do with any of the other podcasts.
Sure.
So that's why I'm a fan of that.
Okay, no, I'm with you. Sure.
Yeah, definitely check out the one with Rollins. That one's well put together.
Yeah,
Very.
That's the one I'm listening to right now.
No, you're podcasting right now.
Wait a minute.
Well, okay, not right now, but well, okay, I'm listening to it right now. What'd you guys say? All right. And that's the show. You can go check out FTWpodcast.com for more information about us and how to get involved in the future. And join us live each and every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on FTWlive.com. For myself, Joe, Nick, my wife, and everyone in the live chat, we'll see you next Tuesday. Goodbye.